You're listening to the Karmic Mirror podcast, where we explore the wisdom tucked within the layers of the self-help world.
Together, we bridge the gap between esoteric teachings and practical tools for everyday life, with self-love and personal growth at the heart of each conversation.
Whether you're a seasoned seeker or just beginning your path, join us and uncover the magic within and around you.
Welcome back, beautiful souls. Today's episode is for the seekers, the wanderers, the ones who have always felt like their soul belonged somewhere else or everywhere at once. Melissa Lambour is the founder and CEO of Cosmic Roadmap, and we're so excited to have her on today's episode of Karmic Mirror. She is an ex-Army engineer turned digital entrepreneur, helping people in transition step into the identity they've been longing for with purpose through self-discovery and astrocartography. In 2022, she left New Jersey to follow her astro maps and has since called Bali home. Now she guides others to align their journeys with purpose, love, wealth, and spirituality. Having astro-mapped her way through 25 plus countries, she is a 4-time international best-selling author and host of Cosmic Roadmap podcast. Hello, Melissa. How are you today?
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course. Hi, Michelle.
Hello.
We are so excited to have Melissa on today's episode, and we've been calling you in for a long time, my friends.
Yes.
I was sharing with Melissa, and for our audience, this goes back almost like a full year or so. Michelle just randomly, when we were saying, what type of guest do we want to have on? She kept saying, do you know an astrocartographer? I really want to call on an astrocartographer. And I was like, a what? A who? And we will get into what that means.
Yeah.
But then fast forward, Michelle introduced me to Steph, who has also been on our podcast. And Steph put the Triple Moon Goddess retreat in front of my radar. And Melissa was one of the beautiful goddesses and facilitators of that experience. And when I learned that she was an astrocartographer, I just said, I don't know why, but I need to go on this retreat. And so let's go ahead and meet Melissa.
Yeah, so thank you for that introduction. But yes, I finally got to meet you on that bus ride, that van ride all the way to Lake Atitlan. And we were playing musical chairs all the way through until you finally sat next to me.
It kept being a joke. I was being so accommodating for everyone in the van, Michelle. Like, people were trying to sleep. It was a very long van ride. And then I was like, I'm secretly just trying to get closer to Melissa.
I thought it was like real musical chairs, like everyone on the bus ride, let's just meet each other before.
No, but it was just like one person was like, yeah, I think I need to move. And it just like, finally, you're like, yeah, sitting right next to me. And we got to chat about human design and what I do, astrocartography. But yeah, what I do kind of fell in my lap a few years back, almost 5 years ago. I was at a yoga studio and didn't know anything about it, but yeah, it was my spiritual awakening moment. I had just cut off my hair like a few months before that. Yeah, going through a whole bunch of identity shifts, and I feel like a lot of people were about to step into that because 2019, that was
Totally.
right before, right, the world shut down. So yeah, I got out of a yoga class and somebody's like, you can figure out where to be in the world with astrology. And I'm like, huh? And they're
Hold the
pulling,
phone.
right? I'm like, let me see your computer. Yeah, what are all these maps with these lines, like all these rainbow colors? And yeah, that was the moment that I went back to my computer. I had all these tabs open with all the places that I had been to because I had traveled at that point like 15 to 20 places already.
Wow.
Because I felt like I was always very nomadic. Like I wanted to experience different cultures. And this was the missing puzzle piece. This allowed me to figure out why I met certain people, why certain feelings were coming up, and why I was drawn to different places. So I finally learned how to travel with intention. Like I wasn't just, throwing a dart and, into the air and like, okay, let me go here. And I realized also that my client, my ideal client was not just a typical nomad. It was a spiritual nomad, someone that was on that awakening path. A usual nomad would just be like, yeah, I'm just going to go on my bucket list of places. And I was really traveling with intention. Like, what is meant for that place? Like, why am I going to travel to Nepal? And like, what is going to come about, going there? Or like Ali, like you just went to Guatemala, and like, what was meant for you in Guatemala? Like, what are you meant to learn, and what is meant to shift inside of you? So that's the way that I look at astrocartography. And also being a child of immigrants, like my parents are from Guatemala, and I always felt like a disconnect with the US. Like I was born there, but I don't feel like I have true roots there. And I really don't. They're back in Guatemala. But when I go back to Guatemala, am I truly part of Guatemala? I'm seen as a foreigner, as a gringa, as an outsider. So
Mhm.
I feel like I float around the world as an outsider, and with the work that I do, I help you find a connection through your planetary energies. So regardless of where you're from or where your ancestors are from.
Oh my gosh, there's so much in there. And as always, it's like my brain wants to go in so many different directions, but I really feel you on I've been having this conversation with other friends that I know who maybe were born in another country and then, moved to the States when they were really, really young and then kind of going back. And it's almost like there's a part that's reclaiming parts of yourself that you didn't get a
Yes.
chance to really get to know. But I have a lot of questions. But first, I want to
Yeah.
know before we get into everything else, because I love the way that astrology and human design can help inform or just add that little extra layer. So,
And I love human
mm,
design. That's something that I don't incorporate
so
it into
good.
my work, but yeah, as a manifesting generator, it helps me understand why I feel a little ADHD. I'm just like
Totally. Yeah,
right? Because I'm like hands in everything, right?
I feel
And
that. Yeah.
And as Michelle, yeah, as you were perking up, I was like, you go, man, Jens, right now.
Yeah, yeah. Also, man, Jen here. And it's really, really interesting to think about how initially it can feel like all over the place. And like you said, a little bit of this kind of like squirrel, like, catching your attention. And then as you start
Yeah.
to understand it more, it starts to feel like such a power because you're like, oh my gosh, I can time travel into these. You literally like I can jump into so many different things and I move so quickly.
Because I used to feel so bad that I would pick something up and then I would just like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm done with this.
Yeah,
But
you quitter.
I've learned enough that that I can just like run with it. And
Yeah,
that's kind of how it was with astrocartography too. Like I picked it up really quickly. And with any business, right? That's how it should be, right? Something
it's
that comes
super
easy
cool.
to you, that's what you should step into. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
100%. Well, tell us a little bit more about, I know that you're Pisces
hmm
from Allie, but what else? Tell us about your moon, your rising, and if you want, maybe a little bit about your human design.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, Pisces, Sun, Moon, Leo, and my rising is Taurus. So I always feel like there's always a little bit of a party in the back, but
Yeah.
I'm like very reserved, very put together in the front, right? Because the Taurus is also, yeah, like very put together, but leisure. Like I love food. I'm such a foodie. So those are the qualities that come up. But I think a lot of people think that I'm very shy, but I can be at a party until like the very end. Like
Hmm.
I'm not the one to leave first. I'll stick around and watch everybody go crazy while I'm just in the
Yeah.
back just observing, right?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. I love that. That's like kind of a cool blend of your three
Yeah.
here. I also would be so curious to find out more about how Taurus being your rising as like a fixed sign. And for me,
hmm
Taurus is like it truly is a fixed sign in so many ways. Like I'm a Taurus moon and I feel really averse to like disruption, spontaneous disruptions to my flow. So it's interesting to
mm
think about you traveling so much and kind of defining different areas throughout the world that mean something different with that fixed sign. It's just,
And I think that's where the Pisces comes through because they're all about flow, right? It's
yes,
just
yeah.
I think that's that yeah, it smooths that out. Yeah.
Yeah, what was really cool is that I know we've talked about this of like Pisces find each other, Pisces women find each other. So
Yes.
so was thrown into the mix as another Pisces that I got to emulate and lean into that energy. And Melissa will have you share your energy, authority, and profile. But the
Hmm.
really cool thing is that Melissa's also, her strongest gift is 37. We had four women
Oh,
on the retreat that all had their strongest gift is
that's
37,
beautiful.
which felt very kismet. And we haven't worked out what that means just yet, but
And do you
it
remember
was.
what 37 stands for?
Yeah, so that is where you are creating win-win scenarios for the collective. It's all about community and friendship, and it's where 70% of your energy will really be called towards exerting in that space.
Wow. And that's what I feel like with the work that I do, I'm a bridge,
Yeah.
regardless of where I am. I'm not meant to be like where my ancestors are from or where I was born, but I'm like globetrotting around the world trying to connect
Community and
people.
finding home
Community.
all
Yeah,
over and connecting. Yeah.
exactly.
That's
So
Yeah, I
your
so
love that.
cool.
energy, authority, and profile.
Yeah, that one is I'm emotional, right? Emotional authority, and then the 1-3. So the experimenter, right? Like always experimenting, trial and error. So I felt that throughout my life. I was an engineer for 13 years. Yeah, I went for 3 degrees. Like I have my bachelor's, my master's in engineering, and then ended up getting my MBA. So it's like I'm constantly seeking and experimenting and even as I was going through my MBA program, I'm like, I know that it's just like a typical MBA program, but can we do like a little sustainability, a little like this and a little bit, just because at that point I was like, fuck it. Like I'm studying because I want to enjoy my learning experience. And yeah, I just started experimenting, right? Like with
Yeah.
particular classes that would excite me, that
Yeah.
would light me up, and that's the MG, right?
100%.
So yeah, so that's where I was at.
The one is like all literally the investigator, right? And that's so interesting because when I saw your bio before we started recording, I saw Army engineer, digital entrepreneur, and to me, astrocartography is like that meme where the woman is looking and there's just mathematical problems and she's like, "What?" Like what
Yeah.
that's how it looks, right? Because it looks so like really, really complex. And I was super curious to know what parallels maybe between all of, because when at first glance, I was like, totally engineer. And now that I know that
Mhm.
you have an MBA, it's
Yeah.
so, it's so very 1-3 of you to be like the one line is literally like needs to know the whys and is like highly analytical and highly, all about practical learning. And the 3 line, it's like the curiosity, the insatiable curiosity married to the insatiable thirst for knowledge. And it's so funny to hear you say about like pulling in sustainability and these other things because that feels like it's like a lived experience, right? Because how else would you be curious about those things if they weren't something that were already kind of within you or planted in your psyche of wanting to meld all those things. So I love that. That's super
Exactly.
cool.
And now I'm in a space where it nurtures that because I'm around people that are into like blockchain, into programming, into the whole crypto world, which I'm trying
Wow.
to get into because I'm like, oh, my tech stuff. Like, let me get into that. So that's like a newfound interest. And
Totally.
then a sustainability a job just like plopped on my lap. And I was just like, I could do that too. And that's all in Bali.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like I'm nurtured, and then the spirituality. So it's like the trifecta, the
Yeah.
spiritual, the environmental, and also the technical, like brainy side.
And having that manifesting generator energy to be able to plug into all those different things, that's
Hmm.
super awesome. I love that. So,
Yeah.
what was the kind of maybe the catalyst or the shift that, well, you told us a little bit about meeting someone, talking about astrocartography. So, I'm just curious to know like a little bit more about,
How it became. Yeah.
And definitely share about the maps as a child. I love that through line because the more that I understand not only astrology but human design and have conversations when you get around and you get to have these conversations. I think when Melissa shared this next story with me, I was like, "Oh, it's as if it has been in your soul from your
yeah.
inception until now." So, if you
Yeah.
wouldn't mind, I would enjoy hearing that story again of
Course.
starting from just your interest in maps.
Yeah, so as a child, my parents they moved out to New Jersey. I was born in New Jersey, but my other side of the family, my dad's side of the family were down in Florida. So it was my turn to like open up the maps. This was before Google Maps and GPS and whatever. So I would open up the map, I would like calculate like, oh, how much gas we need to get, when are we going to stop? And where should we stop? Are we going to stop in, I think, North Carolina or like South Carolina? There's like the most southern point or something before you get to Florida. But that was really interesting to me. So I used to plan the family trips. And then fast forward to now, I'm planning people's life, right, around astrology, around the planetary energies and what their goals are and what they want to manifest. So there was always this interconnection. And I'm also into Ikigai, which is the Japanese,
Mhm.
the philosophy of like what your purpose should be. And when I did that, it was like in the environmental aspect, right, and traveling, the analytical part. Like I wanted to bring that all together. And I think that was also that point of, okay, I do like in the environment, I do like to travel, and I like to work with people, but how do I bring that together and how do I make that into a business? And the light bulb moment was when somebody was asking, how do I figure out where to be in the world with astrology? I'm like, oh, I have that website for you. And I used to send it out to a few people, and they're just like, Melissa, like, I don't get this. I'm like, what do you mean you don't get it? And that was when I was like, I'm meant to be a guide because I'm understanding this, but they're not. And that's when I stepped into it. And little by little, like I barely had a website. Like I'm also someone that I need to have everything kind of like set up. Like the business had to be set up, like my business account, like for me to start accepting money.
Mm.
And once I set that up, I went to a networking event and somebody's like, "Oh my gosh, I was just in Bali, but I didn't get to go to that astrocartographer. We were meant to meet, on this Zoom, breakout room." And from there, I connected, I kept in touch with her. And then finally a month later, I'm like, here's my website. Here you can sign up for a session. And once that was the moment that it all started, right? It got everything rolling because finally somebody saw the value in what I was doing. And yeah, like you just have to believe in yourself and yeah, put yourself out there. So.
And then if you could just, if someone were to say, what is astrocartography? Like what is that? How
Mhm.
might you explain that?
So astrocartography, you can call it locational astrology. So pretty much using astrology to figure out where you're meant to be in the world. And if you pull up these maps, it's essentially your astrological birth chart plotted on a world map. And you're just either looking at particular planetary energies to see if they are going to help you or guide you in some way, or allow you to manifest your goals. So when a client comes to me, they usually have a goal in mind, like they want to maybe start a retreat. And we start looking at their map. Okay, like, okay, you want to go to Costa Rica, you want to go to Bali, but which one is going to actually allow you to have the success, is going to allow you to give your attendees the transformation that you're seeking, right? So they come with these particular goals, and then from there we kind of pinpoint, okay, based on your maps, this is the best place. Yeah, there's so many things. If you're looking for love, like where to live, if you're planning to go cross country or out of the country, people that are in transition that are always trying to figure out where's my next place.
I'm really curious to know for you, where Bali lands for you on your chart. What drew you there? That was one of the first questions that popped up.
Yeah, and that's a question that a lot of people ask, like why go all the way around?
Yeah.
Like it's 12 hours, it's a 12-hour difference, which means like exactly like if you were to put a pin through the earth, it's like
Mhm.
the opposite side of the world. But I always had a deep connection to Asia. Even in the US, like you would always find me in a Chinatown throughout
Mm-hmm.
the US. And I realized when I looked at my maps that I had a connection to Hong Kong. And a lot of China, a lot of Chinatowns, there are a lot of people from Hong Kong as well, and Cantonese food. So there was that already. I realized, afterwards when I was looking at the maps, I'm like, oh, that's why. And that same moon line that goes through Hong Kong also goes through Bali. So there's this deep connection with most of northern China, central China, and also Southeast Asia. So it's no surprise that I ended up there. I used to travel to Malaysia quite a lot, like almost close to 20 years of my life.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm already 42, so like around, yeah, my early 20s, I was already going to Malaysia. I have a partner also from Malaysia, and yeah, we traveled back and forth like that whole time. So moving to Bali was just a very natural move,
Hmm.
and it's also a very healing place, very spiritual. So with the work that I do, it was just very easy to just drop in and just start a life there. And I've been there
Yeah.
three years at this point. Yeah.
That's amazing. Do you feel like there were any, or was there any major shifts that you noticed right away when you moved to Bali? I mean, obviously, all of the beautiful things that you just described, but like, were there any specific, yeah, anything that really showed up for you?
So the partner that I mentioned, we're actually married. So we had an open, arrangement. So I kind of said, all right, doing my digital nomad journey. I don't know when I'll be back. So I said goodbye to him, and I started in Spain for a month and a half because I wanted to connect back to my Spanish roots that I
Mm.
had never explored. So I did that month and a half because I didn't want to go straight from Newark to Bali. Like might as well just stop like in the middle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did that, and that was great. Like I met some great people, also like some IG friends that finally I met in person, and then we were traveling together. Like it was really wild how I started this journey of being a nomad, and I was encountering all these people that I was meant to meet.
Very gift 37. So that's how that would show up as well.
Right? The community aspect where I'm just bouncing around and I'm already surrounded by community. So fast forward to August of 2022, and I arrive in Bali, and I'm celebrating my sister's birthday with this retreat that was that first week that I was in Bali. So she spent 2 weeks there, and then she said goodbye. And then I'm like, okay, I don't know how long I'm gonna be here. My visa was really only for 1 month, but most people arrive and they're like, yeah, maybe I'll extend. So I was like, I'll be here 1 month, maybe 2 months, maybe 2 years. And I was just joking around for the first 3 weeks, right? So my sister's there for 2 weeks. I'm a week by myself, and I'm like, what do I do? Like I was into bamboo architecture, so let me go to a bamboo workshop. And that's what I ended up doing. And I meet this Australian lady, and she's like, "Oh, you want to be here for 2 years? All right, let me connect you with someone." And I didn't realize that the lady she was connecting me with, she was leaving a business, like a foreign-owned business that allows you to get a 2-year visa. She was just like, "Oh, she's a breath worker, right?" Like it's very like Bali, like she's a breath worker. I think you should meet her. I think she'll help you out with whatever you need. I'm like, okay. Like this lady's like my guardian angel because the sustainability job right now that I'm applying for, she's a good friend of hers. So it's just like there's so many interconnections. But anyways, going back to that, she reaches out to me, the Australian lady, and she's like, "Have you spoken to her?" And I'm like, "Oh, no, I haven't sent a message to her." Well, she needs an answer like in the next few days if you want to join. And I'm like, "Join what?" And I'm just like, "Wait, what's going on? Like I don't even know what this is." And yeah, within like a day or two, like she told me what it was all about. I went from like Canggu to Ubud, which was like the beach town, to like the mountains on a little scooter, and like I showed up and signed my life away to like what I didn't know and got my 2-year visa. And I was like, oh, okay. And that was 3 weeks in.
Wow.
So just the synchronicities, right? Because I'm on my moon energy in Bali,
Mm.
and moon energy is all about grounding and, building a home. And within that month, I was already like, Bali was like, this is your home. Like I
Wow.
got my 2-year visa. So it was really incredible. And then a month after that, I was done and over with Bumble. Like I was just like over it. And I download Tinder, and the first person that I match with is the person that I'm still with. And her name
Amazing.
means of the stars. Like it's really
Wow.
yeah, yeah. So, and she's a Pisces. She's also a Pisces.
Pisces.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. Two Pisces on your moon line.
Yes.
Isn't your environment mountains as well?
Yes, yeah, when we were looking at it, which I love to be like high up. And I was just talking to my girlfriend, like if we're gonna build a house, like I need to have like a rooftop. Like I need to be like
Mhm.
I need to have a view.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting,
Totally.
even the energetics at play of getting you to Bali, and not only getting you to Bali, but you're not going to be at this town. We're going to get you up in the mountains, right? Just how
Hmm.
the energy was really working in your favor for that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I would be curious to know because I feel like just listening to your story, it's almost, I don't know, what comes up for me is like when you have a little bit of this knowledge, right? Like this kind of practical knowledge of knowing where lines in your chart, and you can correct me if I'm saying it wrong because I know very little about astrocartography, but where they land, it's almost like having a little bit of foundational understanding or knowledge, I think, anyways, would help me be able to trust more because it can seem sort of abstract to be like, this is where you're going to find love. You want to find that you got to travel across the world.
Right? And you show up and you're like,
Right.
I'm
You're like,
here for love.
okay, where are you?
I'm here. I did my job.
Where's my person?
Right.
But I wonder if people tend to, or for your personal experience, it's just having that understanding, that practical knowledge through astrology, through astrocartography helps kind of in that surrender because it almost looks like your whole journey is like a true like trust and surrender, and then watching the blocks fall into place so beautifully. And
Yes.
it's which is like the kind of the name of the game in so many ways, trust and surrender. And guess what?
It's about alignment.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
yeah.
I was yeah, fully surrendering, but I also had to be in alignment. And when I tell my clients like you have to be in alignment, you can't just go to that place and yeah, just be like, where's my love?
Yeah.
Because you have to be in alignment with your life, with what you're doing. And a few years before that, I had been to Bali with my partner.
Oh,
And I was just like, I don't like this place. And the fact that I trusted and I went back, I finally saw the beauty that I didn't see the first time because I was in misalignment. I
totally.
was in my engineering career. I was in a relationship that had helped me to that point,
Hmm.
but it needed to evolve. And now that I'm stepping back, now that I'm back home after 3 years of being in Bali, because I haven't returned, this is the first time I returned back to my birth home
Wow.
and also my ancestral home. I went to Guatemala. Yeah, I feel like my heart is still, my soul is in Bali. Like
Wow.
that's where I'm like even talking to my girlfriend. We're like talking about building, like still like we're in that energy. And here, like I barely wanted to put a coat of paint on the walls
Yeah.
in my own home. So it was, and the energy that I have here is Pluto energy. It's always about shifting and transforming.
Wow.
So that is what I feel coming up, even arriving. Like I feel like I have to set everything in place,
Uh-huh.
but also it's like, what's my next vacation? Where's the next? I feel like I need to leave.
Hmm.
And that's what I always felt. Like I would go on vacation, I would come back. You already feel like you need to like climb out of your skin.
Part of the retreat was that before we went, as Melissa alluded to earlier, is that she did a session with each of the women who were going on the retreat. And she talked a little bit about New Jersey and this area for me. And what I found so helpful about it is because it just really reinforced the energies that I was feeling here. And I could say, yeah, it wasn't necessarily I mean, yes, I chose to come here. I didn't, nobody dragged me and kidnapped me to come here, but
Hmm.
circumstances, it wouldn't have been my ideal place to come back here. But the lines and the energies really aligned with, yeah, I was meant to come back, quote unquote, home and really work with the energies here to get closure is for lack of a better word. And then it was so beautiful again for her to pull out the energies of Guatemala and what I would be experiencing there. And we just had our recap call the other night and it was spot on. I mean, she had given us these beautiful explanations, each of the participants, and, what would be helpful for you to do. And gosh, I think I was like, oh yeah, I got a lot out of that ceremony. And this was,
Oh yeah, it mentioned the cacao
yeah,
ceremony,
she
right?
mentioned the
Yeah.
cacao ceremony, and that was a really pivotal moment in
Mhm.
my retreat. But this was pre even going into that. So, again, I think it is that openness of just, it's not about like being upset about where you are or where you aren't, but also about working with the energies, time and place where you're at is what I found very helpful as well.
Exactly. Because near the end, right before I left, that Pluto energy really helped me to transform and become the person that I am in the business that I am today. Because those foundational relationships that I made, that's what connected me to Shanti. That's what connected me to Steph now,
Mm.
right? In that retreat, like to even create this retreat, to be in that space. So whatever once I became in alignment with my business, what I'm meant to do, leaving my career behind, like actually saying I'm done
Hmm.
and I'm gonna start traveling, I think set everything in motion. And yeah, finally the chips fell where they needed to fall. So,
Yeah, yeah. I love that too from both of you. Just thinking about, I would imagine that when people learn of astrocartography, initially, the first things that pop up are, I imagine people would be like, well, where am I going to find love? And where am I going to have professional success or abundance, right?
mhm.
And I love what Ali said because so much of the expansion of the growth is not where is everything great and gravy and lovely. It's like, where am I going to alchemize the things that need to move in my life that I need the other work that needs to happen. And so that's a really cool examples of both.
Yeah, and that's where I step in, where I'm kind of pointing that out, right? Rather than just, anybody can go on ChatGPT and pull up their
Totally.
astrocartography, like everything, right?
Yep.
HD, like their astrology, everything. And when I have people come to me, they're like, "Oh, I don't need you." I'm like, "Okay, I'm here if you ever
Mhm.
do need me."
Let me say, I will say it, you do need Melissa because I can pull up that chart and there is a gift behind there. And for lack of a better word, I think really calling things out. One of the connections that we made in
Right.
our conversation, which I wouldn't have even connected, is oh, yeah, literally my ancestors came through Ellis Island. So that is also the energy here. And as
Hmm.
you know, Michelle, I've been really leaning into the ancestral healing. And so
Yeah.
those were the kind of conversations that were brought up through Melissa's guidance and
Hmm.
conversation and insight and probing into the areas as well. So it goes much deeper than like, don't
Does.
live in New Jersey because it's going to rock your world in not a great way.
For
Right. Yeah,
sure.
because there's probably, yeah, astrologers, there's practitioners that would be like scaring you, like, oh no, you're not
Hmm.
supposed to be there. And there are, disharmonious energies, but they're not bad energies. Like you're saying, like you might be called to a certain place with a disharmonious energy, but it's meant to make you grow and it's meant to bring things up to the surface so you can be that better person. It shouldn't be areas to avoid, especially if you're being called to those places.
Yeah, yeah. And I think gift is like a perfect word to describe it too, because of all of the evidence, the engineering background, the analytical side, the natural aspects of being the investigator, and also the martyr, the three line in human design of having that um, not just the practical hands-on thirst and understanding and the turning things inside out and knowing the why that probably comes so natural and so conscious to you, but also the lived experience to back it up. I love what you
Hmm.
said too. Like before I even started astrocartography, I'd already traveled to 15 or 20 places. And so there is this nice, really cool balance that really supports it. That is truly, it is gift, it's skill and gift and talent together, which, I don't know, unless you are a super, I don't know why I think it's math, but but maybe because math is abstract to me. But but truly, when you pull up, like let's say on AstroSeek or something, a your astrocartography, I'm sorry, it is not the average person cannot just look at it and be, yeah, sure, I get it.
It's a bunch of lines. It looks like cheesecloth, right? In
Yes.
rainbow colors.
Yeah, you need a professional, but also, what AI can never and will never replace, although it is very much a part of the real world and the future. And so
Mhm.
it behooves us to understand how to use it as the resource it is. But you need the intuitive, the person who has lived the experience, who can connect on a human level, and very, very clearly something that you do and have done and were clearly very called to. And I had a question about something earlier. You had said, because you traveled so much about, you weren't throwing a dart and picking a place, but I'd be curious to know if with that sort of approach of throwing a dart and wanting to travel because your Pluto line was where you are and needing to go places, were there any places that you traveled that did feel like weren't necessarily the throwing of the dart, but were super intuitive before you even realized it? Does that make sense what I'm asking, sort of?
Yeah, I think one of those places, yeah, I decided to go on a business immersion trip for my MBA, which I didn't have to. Like I just decided, okay, let's do it because it went to Singapore, which I had already been to, and then to Vietnam, which I had never been
Mm.
to before. And that was actually the place where I got opened up to because I'm queer and like I was still exploring and like trying to figure out like who do I like what
Mhm.
do I want to be like and that was a moment where I saw this bar manager and I was like whoa, like that's my type. So, and I
Mhm.
realized afterwards when I looked at my astro maps that I had my Venus line through there, which is and it's Venus MC, so it has to do with like the romantic and also the professional. And when I saw her work and like what she was doing, because she was like coming up, I'm not someone that drinks like at all, but I loved her creativity with the cocktails that she was making, right? Like some of the cocktails would come out in like a little teapot. Like it was just like wild. And I'm like, whoa. So that was the moment that I'm like, ah, now I understand where this energy, because it gave me the inspiration of like, what do I want to do in my future? Because at that point I was still in Jersey. And that also solidified me being in Asia. My dreams can come true if I come to Asia.
Mhm.
Because she was European. So she was an expat, doing her thing in Vietnam. So I'm like, this could be possible for me.
Wow.
And then also understanding like who I like. Because at that point I was still kind of like, I don't know. I don't know who I like. And like, am I really queer? And like, and that was it. That was like, yep. That was the confirmation.
Wow. That's
So the energy's
amazing.
there, and that's what you talk about, Melissa, is I think that's a really beautiful example, hello three line, of surrendering maybe to the energies and right, you decide the what and let the universe take care of the how, right? The what
hmm
was at some point you realized there was a Venus line going through there. And what ended up happening is you had total expansion in lots of ways there. So
Yeah,
it wasn't as if you were going there saying, I'm going to meet my future person or I'm going there with a goal of this, but so much became clear to you on that.
exactly. And so, yeah, so many levels.
I also love that you brought up Ikigai because not that I'm going to get into it, but something that I
Can we just explain
remember.
what that is, please, before, like, what is Ikigai?
Oh, do you want to explain it? Go ahead.
Yeah,
I
I'll
mean,
explain because it's like a Venn diagram, right? It's
mhm.
like your what you love, what you can get paid for, and like what you can actually do. And I've probably
Yeah,
messed
like what the world
what the world
needs.
needs, something like that. Yeah, I probably
Yeah.
messed it up. It's not like fully in my head. But yeah, like it's once those intersect, that's what you're meant to be doing. So it's really
Mhm.
finding your purpose and like what you can get paid for and what people will actually pay for. And like, yeah.
Yes. And it's a Japanese concept. And the only
Mhm.
reason I'm bringing it up is because I watch a lot of I watch a lot of Asian
Me
television.
too.
It's probably consume the bulk of my consumption of television is like are either, Asian cooking shows and or dramas
Mhm.
or romance. And from like the full gamut of, well, Korean, Chinese, Japanese. But I bring this up because years ago there was a reality show called Terrace House, which was like the Japanese reality world. I
Like a
mean,
dating show
kind of like
or
a real world sort of, but they're
oh.
roommates. But one thing that I picked up on the show that they ask a lot, which started to really shift something in my mind, was instead of asking people what they do, what do you do for work? They would ask each other, what's your dream?
Oh.
And I thought that was the coolest thing in the world because you said, like, I can realize my dreams. And it just, again, more synchronicities of just like following, like really everything comes like one step in front of the other and just trusting. And what you said about alignment too, and being able to maybe be guided by your chart, I think is the verbiage, is needing to be in alignment. And I think you cannot have alignment unless you can build
Mm,
self-trust. And because if you can't trust yourself, how do you trust that the universe will meet you or source will meet you where you
right.
are? Because it's truly a co-creation. So I just had to shout that out because when you said it, I was like, what's your dream? I love that so much. And I never want to be that. It's not that I can't help but be the weirdo. I mean, hello, Aquarius rising. But I always want to meet people and be like, well, what's your dream?
Caught myself now that I'm in Bali because a lot of people are either traveling or they're doing projects or
Mhm.
they're actually they're building a business of some sort or they've left, their life behind. So yeah,
Mhm.
it's not the typical like, so what do you do? I tend to
Yes.
ask, so like what's lighting you up? Like at this moment, like
Hmm.
what are you doing? Like, not doing in the work sense, but like what projects or what's lighting you up? And then yeah, that's where I've shifted my conversation to because that's what I want to yeah, that's what I want to talk about too. Like what's lighting me up because it's usually not a 9 to 5 anymore.
A thousand
Yeah.
percent.
So,
Yeah. How does astrocartography and this work, how does it help people understand who they are versus, or not versus, but rather than just where they should be
mm.
or where they should go?
It's a good question because yeah, it isn't just about the place or the destination. And when I work with someone, it's like how can you, I guess, work towards that location, right? Because there might be people that you want to meet. There might be specific projects, right, that are in those areas. So, like Bali, as an example, if they're working in sustainability, something that's around the environment, then start researching, start looking into those type of projects, so you can start connecting with those people. So it's not always about the destination and just getting that plane ticket, but actually putting in the work to connect with people that are in that area and what skills, like how do you need to upskill yourself and up level.
Oh, I love that.
And you also shared that there are ways to take the energies from
Yeah.
areas. So maybe we shared like
Hmm.
Guatemala. You were saying when you go home, eat certain types of foods,
Mm.
or might you
Yeah.
elaborate on that a little bit? Because I agree, Michelle, and I think it's a fair call out is, right, you don't physically have to
Hmm.
be in that place to embrace that energy. So elaborate on
Yeah,
that a little bit
exactly.
more.
Yeah. So I started my business actually during COVID times. So, and I had a lot of clients. So it's like, how do you figure out, how do you bring that energy that we just talked about into your life before even traveling to those places? Because we didn't know when the world was going to open up again. So the best way to bring that in is through the senses. So I work with the six senses, right? So the typical five and then visualization. So sight, hearing, taste, touch. So working with the senses, you start bringing that in. So even decorating your house in a certain way, bringing little trinkets, souvenirs, that allows you to connect with the energy. Jewelry, you might have stones, like different crystals. Yeah. Like I always wanted to connect back to Southeast Asia, so I would have batik. Batik is like this beautiful, it looks like watercolor. Like I would have these kaftans, like my pajamas essentially, but embroidery, woven materials. So wearing food, what you cook, what spices that you bring into your home. So there's so many ways that you can incorporate these energies by just connecting in some way through the senses. So in New Jersey, in New York, like this whole tri-state area, like you can just be like, I want to connect to my Turkish energy, right? And just go for a Turkish food.
Yes.
So as a foodie, that's like my go-to. Yeah, I'm always going for Indian food or Chinese food when I'm here because there's some amazing spots.
That's really awesome. And I love that because, well, one, first of all, starting your business that is very, during COVID, it's not a travel based, but truly like that's the
Right.
ultimate surrender and trust. You're like, I'm going to do it
Yeah.
now. And look how it turned out. It's so beautiful.
I think it gave people hope because they already had a lot of these things in their homes. And it finally it just illuminated like, oh yeah, like I do have this thing that I brought back from Mexico. And oh, now I know that I have energy through Mexico and there's love energy. So just putting a newfound, energy towards these things in your home, I think it did change their lives, and it opened them up to what was possible even after, things opened up. So yeah, just working with the energies that you're already surrounded with, and the people that you allow into your life, they carry the energies of those planetary energies, whether they're ancestors or where they live. That's another way. So just looking back at, who do you usually attract? Like who are your friends and what are their
Hmm.
backgrounds, and like looking at the planetary energies, there, what you're watching, right? Like on Netflix,
Yep,
like you're watching a lot of Asian dramas, like what are the lines that you have through there?
for
So
sure.
that's another way.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, it's so funny because this whole conversation, I think what you said illuminating because I would guess that many, many people come to you and you are literally illuminating something that was already present in their
Hmm.
lives. And it was like, I don't know why I was always drawn to this, right? And I feel I can relate to the Asia general, broad,
Yeah.
broad of it all. My dad is Filipino and like I think a little Chinese. I've never done a genetics test, but most of my uncles and relatives on that side of the family are Filipino and Chinese. And so I grew up in San Francisco, Chinatown all the time. That was my upbringing was Chinatown in San Francisco, getting Peking duck, getting a loaf of bread, and then how morbid is this, but going to feed the ducks in the park. But neither here nor there, but
Yeah.
you're a kid. Everything is fair game. And I've always, I mean, my favorite, all-time favorite musical that is like embedded in my very core essence is called The Flower Drum Song. And it's a Rodgers and Hammerstein musical, and it's literally about Chinese immigrants to San
Wow.
Francisco in the like 50s and 60s. And it's where I envisioned my first example of what femininity was through Nancy Kwan, this actress. And anyways, all that to say that, my husband's been to Asia for work a few times over the last few years. And every time he goes, I feel like logically, I know that the trip doesn't make sense for me to go because he's jumping around and he's so busy from meeting to meeting. But I've always felt like so jealous. And so finally next year, he's like, "You're going to come
Oh,
next year." Like
amazing.
I've done it. If he has a three line in his
Hmm.
profile as well, and he's gone a couple times, and now he's understanding the way that he can plan out his work trip so that I can also come. And I mean, it's not all about me, but so that I can go with him because he knows how badly, I'm always like, I just want to go to South Korea. I want to go to Hong Kong. And he always says, now he's like, we could live in Hong Kong. I could live there. And so that totally piqued
Right.
my curiosity even more and my, hunger to learn more. And there's so many things.
That's a really good transition because I
Yeah.
know you were wanting to talk about Alaska, but I also think maybe we tap into Melissa to see what Southeast
Yeah.
Asia has in your energy. So, for those listening in, we've asked Melissa to do some quick readings for us. We will post some visuals of these maps. Melissa, when you are pulling these up, I think what would be really cool is instead of maybe like what are the key planetary lines, just making sure that we're explaining those, right? If it's
Hmm.
harmonious, disharmonious, kind of explain the maps. So she's going to do a quick read for Michelle and then a quick read for me so you can get a sense of what a session, a healing session would look
Mhm.
like with
All right.
Melissa or a guided
All
session.
right. So for
Woohoo.
Michelle, I have yours up.
Yeah, and as you were talking about it, I'm like, well, obviously we need to see what's going on for
I
Michelle
know.
in Southeast Asia. Yeah.
Exactly. So here we go. All right. So what are your goals or what are you looking to see here? I know that you mentioned Alaska.
Yes, I grew up in Alaska and there's a lot there. There's a lot. It was formative years. So I'd be curious to know if there's anything that crosses over, what crosses over. Oh, there I see it. I grew up on the largest island, the first closest on the Aleutian chain to the to Alaska. So where that little line goes out, I'm like at the closest top there. But yeah, so I'd just be curious if anything pops up
Well,
because
the first thing that popped up, and I don't know if this line, do you see the line here? This is Moon Node IC. Is this one close to
mhm.
where you lived? So, oh, Kodiak Island?
Yep.
Is that how you pronounce it?
There's me. Yes.
So that was the one that popped out at me. And Moon Node happens to be your purpose, and IC has to do with your past, with family connection. So the fact that you grew up here, it makes sense. So this area is tied to your purpose, but connected to the past, family ties. So I don't know if this was every time that you think of Alaska in some way, there's something related to your purpose that kind of pops up. So
Mm.
that's kind of what I see here. And then also there's Chiron DC. Chiron has to do with healing and also healing around relationships because it's DC has to do with relationships with community. This is giving off that energy.
Melissa, I'm sorry for our
Yeah.
shit-eating grins back and forth. If you're looking at our faces, I'm like
We're looking at each other
chomping
and
at
we're
the
just
bit. I'm like,
laughing.
yes, exactly. We've got these like shit-eating grins on as
We
you're
really
working
do. And
because
I know like there's three people on the screen, but I feel like when I look at Allie and I'm like, we see each other, she's totally sees. Of course. Of course. It's real, people. It's real,
Yeah, we're
folks.
not frozen.
Astrocartography is real.
So I turn on the harmonious aspects and the disharmonious aspects, and let's see. So right through Kodiak Island, there is a disharmonious line, and it has to do with Mercury, so communication. So I don't know if that island in particular you had trouble maybe expressing yourself, but that's what would come out there, and especially your career. So it's not a great place to stay, especially if you want your podcast to expand because maybe relating back to like family ties also, right? Like you go back to, the family norms or, you can't express yourself in some way around whatever cultural norms that you grew up around. So that's what comes up here.
Wow.
But then
Melissa, this might have been the first time I almost cried on the podcast.
really?
It was so real because truly, like, I won't get too
Mm,
deep into it because I know we're, all of everything. Like the communication, Chiron, first of all, in my natal chart, Chiron lands in my fifth house of creative
mm,
expression in Gemini. Um, and so there is an aspect of my healing that I know is tied to being able to express myself and communicate my needs or my wants, my desires, all of these things, or just communicate, period, that were so deeply suppressed for so many reasons there. I mean, I grew up there with my
right.
dad. There's a lot of disharmonious energy there in general that just lingers and he still lives there. And I have like a real, it's like all the work, all the healing, right? It's like I can go through it, but it is truly it's that really hard to crack aspect of my healing and growth that is tied to so much, right? Like I can always
Yeah,
trace the through lines back to why I have the blocks that I do. I can
right.
always trace it to him and my experience there, which is so it's conflicting like everything because there's beautiful things like things, I always say I learned a lot from from him, from my dad about being really bold and being all of these things that are tied to, for example, my life theme in human design is the left angle cross of the alpha. There's an aspect of my purpose that is here to lead and to nurture and provide. And there's so many blocks there to do with all of that. So it's really
And
spot on.
everything that you're telling
Thank you.
me, yeah, it's exactly that, right? Like your purpose was through your
Mhm.
family, through your father, and then learning, yeah, the healing around relationships, right? And being bold. But that disharmonious energy is just a reminder of what you're meant to work on, right? Which is your voice and
Mhm.
expressing yourself. So I love that. Yeah, thank you for
So
mirroring
cool.
that. Is there another place that you wanted to check out?
Yeah, maybe the continent of Asia. See
Yeah.
what if anything pops up out of just sheer curiosity, because I am so deeply drawn to so much within, gosh, so many cultures
So in the
throughout
Philippines
Asia. There's a lot.
in general, you so there's these circles. So these are the strongest energy points of a particular planetary energy, and you happen to have two in in Asia. So one is right over the Philippines and it has to do with communication. It's Mercury. So that's very, very interesting. So, connecting back to your culture, to your roots, it does help you to be rooted in your voice, like to be fully
Yeah.
embodied. And not to forget where you come from. Yeah. And another one in the sea, you can see like off the coast of the Philippines, like almost going up towards Japan. That one is the sun energy. So you have Mercury and sun energy. So being seen, being recognized is really in the energy of Asia. So rooting yourself back. So it makes sense that you're always going back to these Asian dramas, like what you're watching, what you're consuming, because it does, give you that confidence energy. Sun is all about confidence and being illuminated, being seen, and also being fully embodied and in your voice, right? So that's the energy that you have, the major energy in Asia.
Melissa, can you explain, because you've said
Hmm.
disharmonious and
Hmm.
harmonious? Might you just highlight for our listeners what that means when you're looking at
Yeah,
the
so the
chart?
harmonious would be, so there's the major lines which don't have the aspects. So when I mention harmonious and disharmonious, they're different aspects. So the angles of the planets. So you'll have, what is it, trine, sextile, and square, which is the 90 degrees. That's the one that's considered disharmonious. Even when you look at the birth chart, right? When it's something is square in your chart, it means that it's in the negative. Like it's in the negative of whatever, if it's Venus energy and it's square, then you're struggling with love. You're struggling with that energy. So Mercury, so what was
Mhm.
coming up as disharmonious for you was the Mercury in Alaska. So Mercury is all about communication, so then it's the opposite. So it'll be, struggling with communication, with finding your message, with clarity. So it's always the opposite of what the positives would be for that particular planetary energy. Does that make sense?
That's so cool. And the two things that maybe one thing that comes up is Allie and I have talked about, I have this thing about in conversation, we've talked about this a couple of times about how being interrupted mid-sentence, mid-flow really triggers something deep because I was interrupted and spoken over so much by guess who? My dad. And, but then at the same time, been told to speak up, like literally cut me off mid-sentence and then be like, speak up, I can't hear you. So it's this always this conflicting. And so it's still so tender, even despite doing so much, right? Like it's just, and I think I love to share this because it's really, for me anyways, it's beautiful to share it with people to understand that healing is so nonlinear and there is no end point. And you will, even when you get through something that's really difficult and challenging for you, even if it shows up again and it still feels tender, it's like that doesn't mean that like, oh, all the work I did, all the things like go out the window. It's just like, no, this is just, it's part of your experience. It's part of what you're here to experience, what you're here to learn and about yourself, about this version of yourself you get to live right now. And so it's really beautiful, right? It's like noticing the little shifts,
Yeah.
10 years ago, maybe I would be like, oh, like racked up talking about this and I would be shaky and I would feel, and today I can talk about it and feel more grounded and still honor that version of myself that is like still tender and still has those things I'm working through every day. It's just, it's really beautiful. And I love the visual of it too. It's so freaking
Oh,
cool.
I love that.
Um,
And I was gonna bring up, yeah,
yeah.
like those triggers, yeah, we shouldn't run from them, right? Like every
Hmm.
time that we approach them, like we nurture them and we see why they come up, then it's a little less, right? A little less on your nervous
Yeah.
system the next time it pops up.
Totally.
So,
Okay, I have to share one more thing, and I'm so
mhm.
sorry to, but
We also say on the podcast, it's never one more thing.
it's never one more thing. I
Never
just
the
like,
last thing,
yeah,
it's never one more thing.
I just like to say that as a
That'll
precursor,
that'll be
but
the
don't believe
podcast,
me.
karmic mirror. It's never the last.
It's never
Never
one more
Never
one
the
thing.
thing.
last thing.
Before we started like our official recording today, I was telling Allie about how I tend to wake up with a song on my mind a lot of times and I wake up singing, but I'm always singing. Like I don't know if it's really annoying to my husband, but I think he's okay with it. I mean, it's been enough time that he's gotten used to it. But it's so funny to me because I always think about how in the Philippines and, with my Filipino family, I'm sorry, but karaoke is so deeply embedded in the
Yes.
culture. And so there is something about singing. My sister's this beautiful, incredible singer. And we've always like there's karaoke, but there's just singing and music and using our voice. I also have my throat defined and I also am a sacral authority. So there is an aspect of like I need to voice
Yes.
things to express, but singing has always been, and not professionally, just loving to sing and always singing. It's like this way to safely use your
Hmm.
voice or
With no
exercise it and
judgment.
do it. And
Hmm.
so no judgment and being around people like my husband who I don't care if I sing off key or whatever. I'm going to sing and I'm going to sing, I'm going to go with Mariah Carey's note, even though I have no business, but I do it because I feel so safe and secure to be able to speak or say whatever or sing in front of him. And so I just love drawing those parallels. It's really cool to see it that the Philippines.
I love that you bring that up because I want to move to a certain part of Bali where it is a little closer to like the karaoke, not the bars,
Yes.
but they have like these karaoke like houses, right? That you can go, like they have different rooms. Because my girlfriend
Yes.
also she's Indonesian, so she loves karaoke. So you expressing
Yeah.
that, it helps me understand like, oh, that's why she loves it so much because it's a way to
Yeah.
express, right? In a society where a woman is often not heard, right? And
Hmm.
so, yeah, just expressing, using your
Yeah.
voice in a safe way.
Well, are giving me all the feels.
Yes, it's so cool. But it's also the karaoke aspect of it all. And even like you said, the food for me anyways, those are the entry points into connecting to these cultures that I didn't necessarily have because, similarly, in a lot of ways, I was born in California. I'm born in the States, but growing up, it was like I was not Filipino enough to hang out with the Filipino kids. I didn't speak Tagalog. I look a little bit different and and I didn't speak Spanish enough. My mom is from Nicaragua, so I couldn't hang out with anyone that was Spanish or Hispanic and so all of my friends were white growing up and the only ways that I felt like I could connect to my culture and still to this day, it's through
Yeah.
food, it's through music or karaoke or all of those things where there are entry points for me where I'm like, I can start to get curious here. And
And nobody's judging you, right? Like
that's
I feel the
exactly
same
it.
way with Spanish music and yeah, because I have a lot of friends
Hmm.
from Latin America and they're like, "You're American." And I'm like, "But I'm Latin American." They're like, "No, you're not." Like
Yes.
they automatically put you in a box because of the way that you speak or don't speak, right? But yeah, my
Hmm.
safe like escapes are listening, getting on Spotify and listening to all my Spanish music from
Yes.
all over the world and not being judged. But yeah, how do you connect to these energies or how do you connect to your ancestors are through these ways, like using your voice and singing
Hmm.
and connecting through music and food sometimes. So, mhm,
100%.
love it.
Oh, thank you
You're
so much
welcome.
for sharing this.
So, Allie,
Okay.
let's see.
So me, and I got so curious about, let's start with Saginaw, Michigan. I can hold up the hand and show you about where it's at, as Michiganders do. You had done, there was a triple moon goddess workshop that you all had
Hmm.
done. And you had offered a couple of readings on that. And I thought it might be cool for you to also talk about and highlight, because you had said on the call with one of the girls, she was looking at a country and you said, she was like, oh, my best friend's from there. So that is what drew me to Saginaw, because it is where my dad's family landed, and then my mom's family was sponsored by a Lutheran church in Saginaw. So a majority of my family is still there. And then the unique thing about that is that I've lived in Florida and Baltimore, among other places. But my ride or die best friend from Florida, she is from right around that area. And then my closest friend that I didn't know yet before I moved from Baltimore, she is right around that area as well.
From the Saginaw area. Okay.
Yeah, like within 20, 30 minutes from the Saginaw
So I can
area.
see like automatically, like right around Detroit, you have two major lines. One being Moon DC, which happens to be, that sense of home in community, in relationship, friendships. So you already feel this sense of home, right, with these friends. And then the other one is your moon node, so your purpose, especially for your career, for your future. That is tied around, yeah, Michigan in general. But the Saginaw area, that one is very interesting. And you said that you lived there as well, like for some time or no?
No, I never lived there. Both my
Ah,
parents, well, my mom wasn't born there, but my dad was born there. But like my whole
yeah,
family lives there still. There's like seven of us who do not
got
live in
it.
Michigan and the
So
area.
just
Yeah.
kind of understanding your background and the stress that you've put forth, there is disharmonious energy there. Right around Saginaw, you can see here, if I zoom in, the two lines are Mars. Mars is very close, so Mars MC, so having to do with this very fiery energy related to your future, very confrontational, very argumentative, like that type of energy. And then the other one is Moon MC. And that one is also square. It's also disharmonious. So not the best place to live per se, because the same, like you'll feel like you don't feel at home, and it's not best for your career or your future. But then at the same time you have a Chiron line, MC. So there is healing energy, even though you're not meant to you're not meant to feel at home, and it's very, yeah, in your face because of this Mars energy. So I'm not sure if that's something that you've encountered with family or even friends, right? Even if they do feel at home, yeah, that might, yeah, creep up.
I think the connection, Melissa, between those friends is that no, it doesn't feel like
Hmm.
home, which hence why we've all left
Mm-hmm.
that area. And I don't want to speak for
And
them.
they're also right in those other areas, so you're connecting to that energy as well where they live currently too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. The home thing comes up for me, and maybe you can tie it back to this. But what came up for me when you were talking is, yes, I've always had this sense of not feeling home. So it's almost how I relate it to Saginaw is, yes, there can be volatility. And I think a lot of that comes from trauma,
Hmm.
wounds, ancestral wounds and healings and dysregulated nervous systems. As I get older, we get to have more empathy for our family and in that regard. And what I always say about Saginaw and a lot of places in my life is that I feel so home and so loved, but yet I don't, it doesn't necessarily feel like I belong. And that would make sense because all of my family is born and
Right.
raised there. They're like true Michiganders, true there. And it's not that anyone is making me feel like an outsider, but when I go there, it doesn't necessarily feel like,
You want to move in, there's no sense of that.
yeah, like when my Big Bang happened and it was like, I need a place to live. Where am I going to go? Like Michigan, I can't go there. I know, and I
But in terms of friends,
mm,
that's where this moon DC comes in, where Michigan is where your friends, your community will feel at home, but you don't necessarily need to make that home,
mm,
right? Like
Mm.
you'll find that in the people from there.
That's exactly what you said to me when you were just recently there. You literally voice noted me and you were like, "Hey, this is like it's not I'm paraphrasing. You said something like, it's not here, but the people, I
Yeah.
feel like home." It's like you said it verbatim, but also, Allie, like the Chiron of it all. Whoever coined the term wounded healer, well, we know it was, right, this constellation. Anyways, it's so real.
Yeah.
Literally
Right.
wounded healer.
Adjacent to
And
to not
it's
feeling at home.
okay, then the next one, and you tell me how you would attack this, Melissa, because I've
Mhm.
been feeling this yearning, right? It doesn't feel like New Jersey is my forever home,
Mhm.
and I've been feeling called towards Europe and the West Coast. So if I came to you, how would you attack that, or what would you look for? And the goal is to all the things. I want all the things. I want love, I want abundance, I want peace, I want joy, health. So, what does my chart look like on the West Coast in Europe? What insight could you give me?
So West Coast, so I'm just pulling up so I can see like a bird's eye view. So in New Jersey, New York area, I do see that you have your strong Venus line, right? It was Venus IC, but that's tied back to family relationships. But then the Pluto line is right adjacent to that line, and it's disharmonious. So it's really working through and shifting and transforming. So it's a heavy line. I know. I have very similar lines in New Jersey, and New York. And then when I look at the West Coast, you don't have much energy there. The one line that you do have, and that's near Portland, like Washington, like Northern California, is your Mercury line. So it's Mercury MC. So in terms of continuing on with anything using your voice, it would be a good place. And I don't know if that's something that you feel when you go back to Portland, where having clarity and speaking up is very easy for you. But that's the energy that you would feel on the northern west coast. Near LA, it's a little different. There, it's all harmonious, but you have Chiron, moon energy, moon node, and Mars. So you have healing, purpose, a sense of home, and that fiery energy to like keep on with projects. So yeah, so a lot more energy in the Southern California area, more like LA, maybe like Joshua Tree, like Palm Springs area. Not sure if those were areas that you were considering.
Not necessarily, but last summer I was in LA. Okay, see, Michelle and I, and just our grins, okay? I was out in LA and it was this thing where people were just like, girl, don't ever come home. LA looks good on you. I was buzzing, getting like 3 hours of sleep a night and waking up and could like not get more. Now, there was a lot going on with what I was doing when I was out there. I was like surrounded
Hmm.
in community, but I almost moved out to LA in my early 20s as well. And then on my cross country drive 2 summers ago, I had just really like a beautiful, beautiful healing spiritual night in Joshua Tree. So I'm getting a little emotional, but
Yeah, because you can see right here, Joshua Tree, you have your moon node, so your purpose energy going right through there.
I feel like this is where you're gonna go right. This is where you're gonna write your breath. Is in this area.
Yeah,
You're gonna,
because
I don't know.
home energy, like your home line or your moon line, goes through Big Bear, is it Sand to Snow National Monument? These areas.
yeah.
So it's more like the mountain areas.
Well, and mountain is my is my environment. In so not necessarily desert.
Hmm.
As you know, Melissa, when the goddess, one of the goddesses that I sit with is Rhiannon, and it is all about transformation of the dark to the light. And
Yeah.
what came up for me in Joshua Tree is I was really talking with souls who had passed there and
Wow.
got a lot of messages and affirmation back from that. So that's what kind of stood out there.
Wow, that's really powerful. Yeah, so overall, yeah, the West Coast looks good because you have that clarity in the northern part, right? And then you have more of this healing, like this home energy. You're tapping into your purpose, like this fire, in the Southern California.
I'll also share when my
Mhm.
dad said that we might be moving to New York from Portland, I was like kicking and screaming and fell into, I was 13, like a severe depression when I left and lost myself, right? And there's also the hardest thing about back then, just on a side note, is that we did not have internet. So I was Kurt Cobain alternative era up in Portland, Oregon. And then
Yeah.
moving out, I thought I was moving to the city. I didn't realize that there was upstate New York and moving there, just poor thing having to show up with to school, eighth grade of all grades. So, but that energies, like that is what resonated for me too, is like I felt like in Portland, I really had,
Like you were voicing yourself. You were just like, no, like this is not happening.
and I feel like I've lost that in the Northeast a little bit.
Yeah, and it's that Pluto energy because it's disharmonious, right? It's like if you're not in alignment and you felt like you weren't, right?
Mhm.
Going to this other side of the world, this other side of the US.
So what about Europe? I know that's like very, very
Yeah,
broad and we don't
let's
have to go
see.
through every country, but I am that's what you get paid for. And
Let's go through every country.
but I finally just got Melissa my all the documents I need to apply for my Latvian dual citizenship. So I don't know
Oh,
what dual citizenship will open up for me because I'll get an EU passport if that's approved. But I've always felt a calling to Europe as well.
yeah, let's see where here's Latvia.
I feel like astrocartography is like magic, low key. Because every time
There it
you say
is.
something, I'm like, oh, how did you know?
Well, that's where the map
Wow.
skills come in, right? I'm just like, oh yeah, because I could, right? Other people
Yeah.
would be like, where's Latvia?
I was saying that about Melissa. I was telling girls on the retreat that when she had pulled and did the readings, there was some small town. I don't know where it was at, but she just zoomed right in. I was like, how the what? How do you know where that is?
Yeah. But that's so cool though, your background, like engineering, the practicality, the army of it all, like all of it is.
And I used to, so in terms of Mercury, we're talking a lot about Mercury and communication. I used to be one of those people I hated going up on stage and like talking and like
Mhm.
talking about like theory. Because my Pisces is all like I need to feel that, like embody that, and I feel like I embody the work that I do,
Mhm.
and I don't need to have this all, laid out, like prepared. I can do this on the fly. So that's an advantage where, yeah, other people might need to like go back and see like what each one means, but this I feel like it's already programmed in me. Yeah.
Yes.
So, looking at Lithuania, which is very close to Estonia, right? And I don't know if you're into Mind Valley, but they're based in Estonia now, in Tallinn. But Latvia, you have your what is it, Jupiter, your Jupiter MC, and also you have another line which is Neptune AC. So we've got Jupiter, which is good all around for professional, for love, like this is like the best of the best in terms of the energies that you want to look at on your map, and it's your major line, and it goes right through Latvia and Estonia. And then the other one is all about spirituality. And I'm feeling like I'm getting like the like, that like that vision of you for some reason doing something with Mind Valley because they're based in Estonia and you have these two major lines crisscrossing there and they're based in Tallinn. So just very close to Latvia here. So if you want to expand in spirituality, right, you're already in human design and like expanding in into astrology and many other practices, yeah, this might be a place. This is going to be a really good place for you. There is a disharmonious line though. I do see it here. It's Mercury once again. Mercury MC.
Mercury.
Yes, it's like, come on, Mercury. So this one I think is just it's going to be a reminder of yeah, coming back to your voice, right? Coming back to the northwest coast of the US, right? Remembering your voice and again and coming back to your body and gaining that clarity because possibly going back to your roots is going to steal a bit of your voice, right? Like, yeah, leaning on that Jupiter energy to give you that strength and also to help you manifest like everything that you want to manifest in your life because that Jupiter energy is all about manifestation and abundance.
Is that the pink line that I'm looking at?
It's the pink line. And then the other line that you have going through Latvia also is the sun line. So sun MC. So you're going to be seen and illuminated for whatever you do in life, in your career, in relationships, and that's right on the coast. So I don't know how to pronounce any of these little
Yeah,
towns.
sames, but I'm getting just a little emotional because that pink line is running like right where my family
Oh my
is
gosh.
from. So just a little emotional about that and also
Yeah.
knowing what happened there and the communication. And I've had a couple of channels tell me you're here to heal the ancestral wounds and the trauma and literally family taken to work camps for speaking out against Soviet occupation. So
Yes.
yeah, it's kind of heavy, but it's beautiful. It's like
Yeah, and coming back to that, right? Like in a
Wow.
completely different time, right? But I think that pretty much summarizes like what's happened there, right? Like your voice being stolen, like your ancestors' voices being stolen and taken away. Yeah, that's really beautiful.
all right, well, on a
Wow.
lighter note, I'll just follow that pink line down to go find my future husband.
Well, like I said, you might want to make
Your
a
way
trip to
upward.
Estonia. Yeah, there's so many people in the healing in the healing world up there. So,
Wow.
I've never even considered. All right. Well, Michelle, what comes up for you when you're hearing things here?
All of the things. I mean, it's just really, really cool. I love to hear about the parallels for both you and I about, places that either whether it's Saginaw, Michigan, that you didn't necessarily, you weren't born there, but there is so much of that home and there's a sense of belonging through the people there. And for me too, in Kodiak of, um, there's just such really cool parallels and finding these places that hold, like the Philippines, like Latvia, holding this ancestral I don't know, DNA or energetic DNA as well, and all of it. Just there's so much, and also just the divine timing of it all. Would you 10 years ago be able to be in a place where you were exploring dual citizenship? All of these things had to line up, all of the work that you've done, being in New Jersey, and all of what's transformed for you just over the last 2 years, but especially as you settled down in New Jersey, like you're a lot of excavation and so necessary and so needed and so healing and also heavy and hard too, all of the things. But it pulled you into such a place now that I don't know, there's just more possibility, there's more expansion that's on the horizon because of everything that you've come through. And not just you, obviously, I'm not like, I'm so great and everything's good, but like truly, it's cool to see that reflected. And I'm really curious to know where my Jupiter line falls, but I'll ask you after and I'll totally need to book like a reading with you. And oh, sorry, this is so rude of me, but I already messaged two other people and I was like, have you had an astrocartography reading? Because you need to do it.
during the
It's
podcast.
just
It's
super
like
fascinating because yeah, sorry. I was listening, but like I'm a manifesting generator, so I'm like really good. I'm really good at multitasking. And I just couldn't. I was like, I have to tell these two people who both of them travel quite a bit. And so it's just really, really cool. I love all of this information. It
Mm,
feels very tactile, if that makes any sense to use that word, but it does provide this different layer of knowledge to apply. And it's really cool because it just complements everything. If you're interested in whether you're into astrology, whether you're into human design, you don't have to be, but knowing a little bit about the locational astrology of it all can just provide so much because you start to connect the dots of, oh, that's why, and it truly is. It kind of almost brings like we're Allie and I both are coaches as well. So there is that element of always wanting to not necessarily live in the past, but to reflect on the past experiences to understand how they're present for you today and how you're going to use what you've learned and what you've come through for the next steps forward. But this provides a really cool, whole new literal world to layer that information, to add more meaning to it, to add more evidence too, because that's part of the growth is like finding the evidence, finding the information that exists so that you can continue to reprogram your brain and to heal your past wounds or what have you, or identify the patterns. So all of this is
yeah.
so, so cool. And I thank you so much for doing this during the episode because it does layer in more understanding and more context to what can happen in a session with you, which is really great. And it speaks to your skill set too. Like we said, I mean, we're just like, pumping you up because truly I think just your background and just your approach, your energy now, it is a really beautiful marriage of all of the things that you're here to do. And I love to see it. I love, so
Yeah. Well, thank you for for highlighting and like bringing that all together. Yes.
Well, yeah, thank you for doing that because once I've seen you and had a reading, I just know that it's the best way for our listeners to understand the type of work you do and where it can
Mhm.
lead. So before we get into, because we will spend 3 hours with you on here before we know it, Melissa. But before we
100%.
get into some of our rapid fire questions to get to know you just a little bit more,
Mhm.
talk to us. We've covered it a little bit, but put it in a nice little package in a bow. Who would benefit most from your gifts and the guiding and the healing work that you do?
Usually it's people in transition. So I thought I was working with people that wanted to travel and like figure out where to be in the world, but it's actually been just anyone. I've worked with a lot of women, but recently I've had men also come to me. So it's someone that's in that transitionary period of leaving something or they're moving. I've had mothers come to me, people that are leaving relationships or are breaking up, just graduated, they're retiring, right? So it's these people that are, yeah, they're
I think
shifting.
about kids. I also think about
Mhm.
kids transitioning to college or studying
Exactly.
abroad or things like
Mhm.
that. Having readings, that could be really
Yeah,
fascinating.
the most interesting has been couples. So I do work with couples and figuring out,
Mm.
where it matches up, where I can compare. So it could be where they want to move, where they're currently moving, or where they may want to travel, and it's going to be in harmony for both of them. I've had a few couples come to me where they're like, I don't know, we're on the verge of divorce, but is it because of where we live, or do we need to move? So yeah,
No pressure.
right, no pressure at all. But those, the
Wow.
fact that they come to me with that, it is really it makes me emotional that they trust me in that way and that they can use this tool as a way to heal their marriage. Yeah, and I've had others where yeah, they don't feel like where they moved is harmonious. And how do we make it harmonious by bringing those energies from outside? Because yeah, they might have bought a plot of land and that's where they're at now. and how do we make it harmonious? So there's all these different ways of using astrocartography, and it's not just about, yeah, where's my next vacation destination? It's much deeper than that, and it could be that you feel lost, like you've never found that home, and how do you find it within? And using the energies around you. It might be that next retreat destination that you're seeking, or the next business idea that you want to start, and working with those energies to make your dreams possible.
Yeah. Sky's the limit and just so
Hmm.
profound. I can't speak more highly of the work that you do.
Yeah,
Um,
thank you.
where can people find you before we get into our rapid fire?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at cosmic.roadmap, and also my website www.cosmicroadmap.com. And yeah, the retreat, Triple Moon Goddess, yeah, retreat.com. And yeah, that's where you can find me. You can usually just send me a message on Instagram, and I'm usually posting not actual posts, but my stories. I live in my stories, so so you can find me in there.
Yeah. And I could go on and on about the Triple Moon Goddess retreat, but we are going to have Steph coming on
Hmm.
and talking about the Triple Moon goddesses, and we'll
Yeah.
be diving into that because that's a whole other
Hmm.
episode. But I
Yeah.
do personally have to thank you, Melissa, for the energy and just the your spirit and your soul for putting that together and being one of the three to
Oh,
put that
thank you.
together and calling us in. So I would give that like 1,000 out of a 10 if you wanted me to rate that one
Oh.
to 10.
Yeah, anyone that's interested, yeah, we have another one coming up in June of next year. So, yeah.
All right, rapid fire. I'm gonna throw that to you, Michelle.
Sure. Yeah. So, what is a quote or mantra that resonates deeply with you?
I think for me, just to keep showing up. And that's what I've done. I've just kept showing
Mhm.
up even in the midst of fear, of anxiety, like crippling anxiety. I just
Mhm.
keep showing up, and every time I do, the people, the resources, they also show up. So yeah, just to keep showing up.
That's really lovely to hear too, because I think speaking to you, and obviously this is the first time we've met, um, I would never in my mind think when you say like crippling anxiety. No, I would never think that because your energy feels so grounded and so certain and sure of yourself. And so, um, not that it's great to
Yeah.
hear, but it is real to hear because of what you do. And for people who do have, all of this, desire, all of these desires, but a lot of fear or anxiety around, that's not possible for me. And so it's always so lovely to share the complexity and the nuance within our experiences.
Yeah, and I like to share, yeah, the honesty of, yeah, I do have anxiety, and even in Bali where it's like, oh, I should be, like prancing around the rice fields. Sometimes I do have that crippling anxiety, and I'm like, I don't want to get on my motorbike. I'm like, nope. And it'll be like almost a week where, yeah, I don't want to leave. So it does
Mm.
happen, but even if that's coming up, like it's still possible, right? It's still possible um to just show up however you are, because
Mhm.
I've shown up in the midst of that, and yeah, and that's where the beauty comes, and the connections that I didn't think were gonna come out of that. So
Is there a book or a podcast maybe that has had a really significant impact on you, on your life?
yeah, at the very beginning, what was it? Lewis Howes and Jay Shetty, Tom
Mhm.
Bilyeu. Yeah, those were like really big ones. Like, and that was way back, I think in 2019 or so. Yeah, they were the ones that kind of opened everything up for me in terms of the healing space and just like mindset. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, just getting out of the funk, and like how do you do that, right? And just listening to people's stories. I think that's kind of what catapulted me into creating my podcast, because it wasn't about me hearing my voice. I
Mhm.
mentioned, I was very scared of even speaking or sharing my, or that, I would say the wrong thing. And yeah, listening to those podcasts, I'm like, I want to share my clients' stories. Like every time we got into a session, I'm like, this could have been an amazing podcast. And
Uh-huh.
that's how Cosmic Roadmap, the podcast, was born, because I just wanted to share other people's
And
stories.
as that 1-3, that
That's
makes a lot of
awesome.
sense that you would want to dig into people's experiences and learn through
Hmm.
others' experiences.
And others love to, they love questions when you're like interested in what their life is about. Like usually people don't get asked like what, why they did what they did. So yeah, it was a perfect
Mhm.
little space for that to grow.
Was there any feedback or anything that you heard from a client or through your podcast that really that has stayed with you?
Like, did you save a marriage? No pressure.
Right, like I did I think the one that sticks in my mind is the one that left New Jersey and moved to Arizona like very soon after. Like she wanted that confirmation and she changed her life around. And yeah, just the fact that and she was one of my first clients and just to show like her completely leaving like the academia world in New Jersey just to start as a coach and like doing all these different things, like writing a book. I think that always sticks in my head because it's possible. Just the
Hmm.
guidance that I give you is not going to change your life, but you also need to take the steps to believe in yourself and to make these things possible.
Hmm. You also reminded me of, so often you speak with people, whether it's through coaching or anything else. And a lot of times people, as they start transitions or start a new chapter in their life, there's always this sense of like, I'm starting over from scratch. But the truth is, like, whether it's through your story, through this person from New Jersey to Arizona, like leaving academia, but then going to write a book, right? Like there's always the through line. And you may feel like you're starting over or you're starting fresh, but there's this whole world that comes with you. It's just expressing itself in a different way,
Mhm.
in a newer way that aligns with who you are as you evolve. And I think that's so cool to spot it in people. Just like, how could you be looking at this map if you didn't have this mind for engineering and this one investigative line in your profile? Like, it just all connects in such cool ways that that just happen naturally. And I love that. So, Melissa, what does self-love mean to you?
Mm, Self-love is massage, eating gelato on the beach. Yeah, all the luxuries, right? Just feeding
Yeah.
myself like the most amazing food. So I'm just like imagining myself in Bali right now, just prancing around like some river or the ocean.
Mm,
Um, but yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, I'm
that's
closing
awesome.
out. That's why there's this awkward pause. I don't know. I
I
was like, yeah, I was literally in my head sitting there like
was like, wait a
I'm
second.
dreaming of Melissa in her things, and I'm going, yeah, yeah. I totally got lost in your vision.
I thought it shut down. I'm like, oh no.
I know we kind of went there too with you. We were like, yeah, gelato.
Teleported.
Gelato.
Yeah, so cool.
Well,
Yeah.
Karmic Mirror community, we hope that you have enjoyed your time with Melissa. Melissa, I am beyond honored and excited to have you on Karmic Mirror, a part of our community. I love you dearly. And just till
Mhm.
next time, listeners. Thanks for tuning in. If you resonate with today's conversation, connect with us on Instagram at Karmic Mirror Podcast and send us a message.
And don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen. And if you're loving Karmic Mirror, we'd appreciate a glowing review or a share with someone who could benefit.
As we close, remember, life is not a one-size-fits-all approach. How are you honoring your unique path? Stay curious and always be kind to yourself. Until next time on Karmic Mirror.